Catholic 540 AM Divine Mercy Radio presents part 2 of a special 2-part series of FaithWorks. Listen in as we continue to hear about Birthchoice. Be not afraid.
But before we left the hospital, I went up to the antenatal testing unit, and this is just the fire in me. And I put the baby down, and I walked in there, and the doctor, I'm totally blank on her name at the moment. But anyway, she tried to be kind, but it just wasn't. I obviously wasn't following what they wanted me to do. So I walked in there, I set Peter down, and I said, the next time someone asks you if you've ever seen a trisomy 13 baby go home, you can say yes. And she starts bawling. And I'm just like, I didn't mean to do that, but it's just like, you can't tell people something definitively when you don't know.
Yes.
So we took him home. And like Marty said, at the time, it was perinatal hospice. And we had this wonderful nurse that came once a week, and I was concerned about the cleft, and he wasn't going to be gaining enough weight. They wouldn't even do anything about he had tetralogy of Fallot, and they wouldn't do anything about his heart condition because he was a trisomy baby. But the cleft, they said, okay, if you can get him to 10 pounds, we'll consider the cleft surgery. I have no idea why that was like an arbitrary thing, or it was just like that was like they were doing me a favor, and he was doing really well. But he had his little struggles. But I don't think he ever slept in his bed because I had 4 kids. Someone's always holding him. My mom came to visit. My husband's mom came to visit. We just had this constant flow of people, and they all saw him, alive. He's pink. He's got this little blonde hair. He's got this little round face, and he was a person. We didn't know how many birthdays he was ever going to get because they said he's never going to make it to a year. So he was born at 8/19. My husband set his watch for 8/19. We celebrate his birthday every night. My husband still has that alarm on his watch. Wow. But that is just a reminder as to why we do this.
Yes.
So I get more emotional when I talk about my husband doing that than my own personal story. So, well, here's the funny thing is that Peter lived 40 days. He died on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade.
Wow.
And the day of this recording, you said when you came in, it's the anniversary of the reversal of Roe versus Wade.
Right.
So
right.
how beautiful that is.
So I said, I'm like, okay, God, I apparently don't get subtle messages. So you have to make it very clear to me what I'm supposed to do. So after Peter passed, and it was just so interesting. I mean, I did a lot of things just because it's just my personality. But, I kept thinking about what if there's some young first-time mom? Northern Virginia is very transient. What if she has no family? What if she doesn't? I'm like, what do you do with that? I mean, I was blessed to have, we had moved, so I had 2 parishes of moms, like, tending to my family's needs. Mm-hmm. What do you do if you don't have that? So after Peter had passed, we went and scheduled a meeting with the hospital. And we were ushered into a boardroom, and there's all these people at the table. And it was interesting. I noticed they turned their badges over. My husband noticed that. And there was one gentleman sitting back along the wall. And we started talking, and they asked, what we were doing there. And we explained our situation, what happened with Peter. And my husband's a systems engineer, and I'm a consultant that does business processes. So we went in there and said, okay, you cannot deliver this definitive diagnosis and just drop it like a bomb and then offer no support, no alternatives, no information, nothing but an abortion. That's just not acceptable. And we didn't even do it from a religious standpoint. I said that just is neglect on the medical community. You have to address all of those scenarios.
It's inhumane.
Yeah, it really is. So we'll come to find out, they thought we were there to sue them because of the treatment we'd received. And I said, no, we are here to fix your problem. So we also, being Northern Virginia, we had the blessings of knowing Dr. John Burkowski and Dr. Anderson. So we had talked with him and said, we really want to do this program. They have to, people are going to make, we couldn't do it from a religious standpoint because people, for whatever reason, get turned off by that. Like, you're the Jesus freaks. You're the abortion, anti-abortion people. And well, yes, but you need to look at it holistically.
Yes, right. Tell me about those physicians again, because I'm not familiar with
Dr. Bruchalski, he was an abortion doctor and all that. He had a conversion.
Okay.
And they have a practice in Northern Virginia. I'm totally blank on what the
It's not
name
Tepeyac, is it?
It is Tepeyac.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
Blank.
Very familiar.
So it's Tepeyac. So anyway, so we talked to Dr. Bruchalski and said, we really want to do this. And the medical system up there is Inova, and Tepeyac had privileges at Fair Oaks, Inova.
Very familiar.
Well, Peter was born at Inova Fairfax, and John said, Dr. Bruchalski said, if you have an in at Fairfax, go for it. Because they did not. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. I know nothing about the medical community. We just, that's just not our thing. But people are going to make decisions, whatever decisions they're going to make. They need to make informed decisions. And as a medical community, you need to provide the entire spectrum. So our whole thing was you need to provide everything from comfort to cure. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. And fortunately, my husband worked for a large defense contractor, and they donated money. And I also worked for another large international company, and I petitioned, and they gave us funds. So we had to basically start the program ourselves, literally in a closet, and with a part-time nurse, because they would not support until it was self-sustaining.
Okay.
So we did everything we could to get it to stand up. So we've been doing that. And then when they built the new Women and Children's Center, we were invited, and they had an office next to the antenatal testing. So they're still not where they should be, but I take it as success for baby steps. They at least recognized it. And it was so clear to me that we were meant to do that.
Yes. Yes.
So it was just a strange thing just a strange change of events. And it's like, and Peter just had such an impact on the world after 40 days of life. Mm-hmm. People should aspire to be like that.
Yes.
You never know you could live to be 100. And it's like there were more people at his funeral than I ever even imagined. So to write him off at week 20 was just so wrong. That's like, we need to do something about that. So long story short, well, it's still a long story. But anyway, we moved from Virginia to North Carolina. I was involved with the Respect Life program at Nativity Parish in Arlington Diocese. And so when we moved here, I spoke with the parish priest there, and I said, hey, I'm still going to borrow some of those materials if you're okay, because I'm not finding what I'm looking for in North Carolina. So I had taken an early retirement just because we had moved and whatever for professional reasons. So I started Googling, and I came across Be Not Afraid. And I'm like, oh, this sounds very much like what I had been doing. Even funnier story is Dr. Bruchalski's on the board, and I'm like, all right, God, I'm getting the message again here.
Yeah.
So it's like it's come full circle.
Yes.
So I signed up, and I did the training. That was when I met Dr. Marty, and we had a long conversation, and we've just sort of have gone from there. So I'm hoping to spread that through the grace of using Birthchoice and letting other people know that, yes, you can get a diagnosis. You get a diagnosis, not a death sentence.
Yeah.
It really is. And you just need to, I'm working to have that culture shift. It's going to be a long, slow road, but I think people need to see that. And my children are totally different because of the life of their brother.
And I was thinking exactly that.
Yeah,
These families that have these beautiful siblings that are a part of it, they're taught lessons that they can never receive outside of that environment. It's so beautiful. And then they'll carry that with them. We talked to Patsy Conley's daughter, who wrote so beautifully about her experience with her sister.
And your story is happening every day on Facebook, 3-5 times a day. I see that story.
Yeah, it's crazy. And for someone to know that there is a person they can pick up the phone and call and talk about that. Their story is not my story, but a totally different journey, but unless you've even walked that path, it's hard. It's hard to put yourself in their shoes unless you've traveled something similar.
But I keep coming back to your faith Judith, and for young women that might be struggling in all areas, and to not have that, and just to have this, in the medical community pushing an abortion as opposed to really thinking through and having that not even be an option. I think it's so important to have people like you walking with these women to help them carry the load and to be strong in this experience. It's really important. Thank you so much for sharing that and for your strength. It's incredibly inspiring. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about accompaniment, hope, and human dignity. And I'll leave it out to whoever wants to answer this question. So we know, and in the midst of this, that parents often describe feeling isolated, frightened, and pressured after receiving this difficult news. What does authentic accompaniment look like, and how can families know they are not alone? Who wants to answer this? You want to go with it, Judith?
Sure. I think accompaniment is meeting the woman and the family where they are. And that includes the husband. A lot of times, because I was the one that you could obviously tell I was pregnant, that a lot of the attention was directed toward me. And to do it as a couple. I mean, a baby has two parents, and they process things very differently. And to just be there to give them what they need, and to talk about where they are. And every situation is different, and to give them back the control, because when you're given that diagnosis, it's like the control of your baby's future is taken from you, because you just don't know. It's not the life that you've dreamed of. I envisioned. I had 3 girls, and then I had the 2 boys. I envisioned my boys growing up together. And to give that to that family, to let them create their own path forward, and to give them options and say, okay, this is what I think, but you're in control.
All right. So I want to hear specific examples of the ways families have found meaning, joy, and grace, even in the midst of these very difficult circumstances. Would you speak to that, Dr. McCaffrey?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about these mothers that we interviewed, and you were talking about how they're street fighters. And you make me think of that, Judith.
Yeah, well, I think you truly have to dig deep if you're going to allow the love that you have for your child to be able to confront, a very powerful and expert medical establishment, which is telling you very different things. I think as you were talking about accompaniment with Judith, I think the other thing that we do when we make these diagnoses, and you guys have said this, a diagnosis, even if we have it right, is not a prognosis. We don't know exactly how a baby is going to turn out. We just aren't able to predict that very well, certainly with the genetic things. A baby with anencephaly may have a very short and powerful life. But the other children with some of these disorders could be very long lives if we're willing to support them. But what we do when we offer parents a choice of an abortion or just perinatal hospice is basically say, well, your baby is different now. So we're going to ask you if you really want this baby to be here. And it really challenges a parent's love. The love that you have for this child, is it a conditional love now that really depended on what the child would do in terms of, their productivity, their utility, what they would do for the world, what they would offer others? Or is that child a really unique individual created in the image of God and is here with special purpose? And I think what I see with the moms, and I hear it just amazingly with Judith's story, is that these are people who really truly realize, and they may not all necessarily be thinking about God per se, but they realize that their child is here with special purpose. And I think the way that I think about that and the way I see it, and some moms have expressed this to me, is that God felt the world was incomplete without this baby, so he put this baby here for a reason. And I think when you talk about Peter Thomas, clearly that little guy was here with special purpose. And I have seen this from so many folks whose babies with, these conditions that we call incompatible with life say, I hope one day, my life is as powerful as my kid's life is. And the ability for them to just melt hearts and to change the world around them is really spectacular. It may also be a commentary on the fact that the bar is pretty low out there and we have a lot of changing to do. But but we're not able to affect that change quite as well as some of these people, these babies, these children. It's just different. And I'm reminded you talked with a couple of moms, with 3 moms when we did our last interview together. And Sage's mom, who we talked about, Sage has got trisomy 13. She's now 7. But Sage's mom, Sage was responsible for just an unbelievable transformation in her mom. Nicole is an absolute street fighter for sure. You would look at her and say, this is not the woman that I would necessarily predict was going to be the one standing up for her baby like this. But oh my gosh, she is. And she also found God through her child, and she converted to Catholicism through her child. And it was the understanding that this child was a gift. I mean, these are transformational people that we need so badly in this world. And we seem to be hell-bent on eliminating them in this world. And I think we're all here, with, as some moms have said, with special purpose. But I think these children are here with even a greater purpose maybe than some of us. I mean, they are really, truly teaching us, and it's what we're all describing here. These kids are teaching us how to love. And it's all about love. That's what all of this is. And that's what's most important at the end of the day. And with these types of children in these cases, what parents are confronted with, it is difficult, it's challenging, it's suffering that they are forced to bear, especially in the world that we live in. But it is ultimately love that wins with these cases.
They're teaching us how to love. Judith, I'm curious, what would you say parishes, families, friends could do more of to support families that are experiencing? I mean, you had a beautiful community around you, but for those that might not have a community, what would you say we could do more of to support?
We were very blessed to have not 1 but 2 parishes, and because we were concerned like our kids were going to slip through the cracks because they changed from one school to another. But in fact, we got double. And what I think would be most beneficial is that people would be okay to talk about it. And it's not like they were doing me some sort of favor by like ignoring the fact that I had a difficult pregnancy. And then after Peter died, like they were doing me a favor by not mentioning it or talking about it. It's like he does exist. He did exist. You can't. You need to let the parents feel like they can have someone to talk to, and then express their needs, and for people to receive that in such a way that it's helpful. It's not like you're really asking them to change your situation, but to meet you where you are and to walk with you, even if for a few steps. And like I said, like I had that one friend that would bring milk, and it's little things, and I don't need one person to like solve all of my problems. Mm-hmm. And everyone has a different role, and people have different capacities. And I have friends that have also lost children, and it was very difficult for them. And I totally understand that. And I'm like, then pray. We'll pray together. I'll pray for you. You pray for me. We'll pray for our families. And just sort of an acceptance of the situation instead of trying to change the situation. I mean, for as much as we would like to, quote, fix some of these babies, that's just not their purpose in life. And it was funny, I was listening to Marty talk, and I'm talking about accompanying women. I went through and I've looked at pictures of families during my BNA training, and that these families have allowed their photos to be shared, and they're all smiling. No one looks like they've regretted. No one looks miserable. The one baby was stillborn, but you would never know that by looking at the parents' faces. They got to put eyes on him. They will have that vision of what their baby is forever.
Yes.
And to take that from people, I think you're doing them a disservice.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Got to acknowledge the truth.
Right. It is what it is, but just go with it. Go with it from there. Don't try to change it. And aborting a baby is not fixing it, because so many of those women end up in counseling after that. We knew a case that when I was in Northern Virginia, and we were working with someone, and they had a young woman that was in counseling. She had a baby that had trisomy 21, Down syndrome. And she was told this baby was going to be disfigured, like all these horrible things. And so she had like a late term abortion. And she said, I just want to see the baby before you take him. And she looked and she's like, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with him. That just sent her into such a psychiatric state that it was just like, that's harder to recover from than following the process of your baby's life. And the way we look at it is everyone dies. They just do. There's no escaping that. So why are you trying to use that as your fix to the solution?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
I think just jump in on Judith's comment about what people could do better. I think when you talk to what she expressed is what I hear all the time from parents, especially from moms, is this sense of isolation after you get a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is we bring that on as healthcare providers, because we talk about these things like you just mentioned, Judith. Oh, there's going to be all of these problems and this disfigurement, and we take away the humanity of the baby. And so you are left then thinking, gee, as you're offered abortion, do I want to do that, or how do I deal with this? And even when you go home, you feel totally isolated, alone. How can you talk to anybody about this? And there aren't people around you who've had experience with this. Someone said to me last week, it's a family that I'm working with Down syndrome. And they said, Marty, this is just really hard to really think about having this baby, because, I look around and I never see any people with Down syndrome. I said, well, there's a reason for that. I see a lot because my daughter has Down syndrome and I live in that world, and she does things with people with disabilities. But, so many of them now are aborted. I mean, we're looking at abortion rates of 90% for Down syndrome in this country. So you feel very, very isolated. And part of what we have to do in terms of reaching out with BNA and with dioceses and what Birthchoice does, I think even when you get initial intakes, is to give people a sense that they have a place to go to and belong, even though they feel like they're isolated and alone. And that is a huge part of the issue, is taking away the humanity of the baby. And I think one of the great things that you mentioned also, Judith, is, you talk to parents with a child with one of these prenatal diagnoses, and I try to do this, and it's totally sincere, is to congratulate them and ask the baby's name. And it's just shocking to find out that someone at 18, 20, 24 weeks has never had anyone in the healthcare world congratulate them or ask about their baby's name or treat their baby as a little human. So I think there's many things that we have to do better on all sides to really try and change this culture.
Oh, and we're certainly doing it with this. I so appreciate all of you and your role that you're playing in this. It is such a beautiful thing. So I'm just to kind of sum up, and then we'll talk about looking ahead and then some closing points on this discussion. But okay, so Marty, Dr. McCaffrey, your experience with Be Not Afraid and the years involved in that, thank you so much for doing all the work that you've done up to this point and continue
No, it's God's work, Ellen.
It's
You go where
I
you're
know
called.
your hands and feet are so beautiful. And Judith, your story with Peter Thomas, it's so beautiful. I will not forget that. And I am sure that at 8:19 now, I will be
Everyone's gonna look at their
Everyone's
watch
saying their
tonight.
watch.
prayer.
Yeah,
That is so beautiful. And your fight with your husband it's so incredibly encouraging. And thank you for that. And Suze, the work that you do at Birthchoice and for bringing this partnership together, it's going to bear so much fruit. And I cannot wait to see how God just builds this from here on out. And all we have to do is just be open. So I think that's so beautiful. So kudos to you and the team and the board that's doing this. All right. So looking ahead, for parents who may be facing a difficult prenatal diagnosis today, what would each of you want them to know? Let's start with you, Dr. McCaffrey.
I want them to have hope and realize they're generally coming to us collectively here at the table with probably a sense of hopelessness and loss. And I would like to be able to give them some hope and be able to give them some reason to believe that, not only is their child an important human being, but there's hope for life for the child, that there currently is life for that child. And then that child has as much dignity as any of us do and is here with special purpose.
Beautiful. Suze, what would you say?
After listening all the Judith's story and also how the experiences from Dr. McCaffrey, I just want to say to all the families that are there that you are not alone, that we have now a possibility here in Raleigh to have faces, real people to help you, that just with a call, you can find these people and the support probably they need. Also that you don't need to figure out right now what is going on or what you need to do. Is a challenge right now to know what to do, but with the support of Be Not Afraid that they are trained to do this, you can find together what to do or how to face this situation. And also that your child is not a diagnosis, like Judith said, and the whole story of that child doesn't end there. Like you were saying, your child, Peter Thomas, his story is still here, pretty much alive, and that your child has a value. Doesn't depend of the diagnosis or has a value because what he is or she is. Then, and there is a lot of hope there. I can see
A lot of hope in it. And we didn't really touch on the training that you go through and the number of counselors that you plan to have on staff through Be Not Afraid and Birthchoice. So why don't you touch on that after you give me your answer about
Sure thing.
what you would say?
So I agree with very much what both Marty and Suze had to say. And the one thing I would add is just love them. It's your baby. Just love them. There are other people to support you with what all those external things are that you need, and let people help you. But your job is just love that baby. The same. I mean, there's no different. A baby's a baby, and everybody has something wrong with them because no one is perfect. So where would you draw the line? And as there becomes more and more testing, that line is going to continue to shift. And what becomes acceptable for a valued life versus what is not. And there should be no line. You just need to love them as a baby.
Okay. And training and
So the training, I thought it was pretty knowledgeable, and I'd done this work for years up in sort of in Northern Virginia, making connections, and for a while we had a website and trying to get people to vetted information. I mean, that came from my daughter searching the internet, and it's just like that's just bad. because anyone can post anything. And I think that's something that parents need to realize is that they need a vetted organization and a person that's going to get them accurate information, not just something that someone whipped up and stuck on the internet. So the training at Be Not Afraid is great because we all have the same training and we have that network. So everyone has different experiences and we share that and we're there to support each other as well because it is challenging and to learn the language. That's the biggest thing that my takeaway from Be Not Afraid is to change that language. Like I said, I still remember, I don't even remember what the sonographer said. All I heard was there's something wrong. And to change that and how impactful words are to people in those vulnerable situations. So Be Not Afraid has done a fabulous job of setting up that training. And we continue to meet and talk, and we have different topics, and it's not a stagnant training. Yes, it's intense, and we learn a lot of basics, but then it keeps changing, and we're there for each other as we go through meeting different parents.
What a rewarding
it really is. I don't understand why people think this is like a terrible negative thing. I've had such great experiences, and I've met so many people. But the interesting thing is how many parents I've found that have lost a child. I mean, I had a best friend that I never knew because she felt like she could never talk about it. I'm like, we should not be in a society where you're afraid to talk about your children. It's like when people say, like, how many children do you have? And I'm like, I have 5. I have 4 here and 1 in heaven. And it's just like, oh, and people, so we just slowly need to work on that. And I think the more we use consistent language and positive language, that I think that the tide will change at some point. It's a long road, but I mean, what else have we got to do?
Yeah, exactly. Consistent positive language. I love that. Yes. We're in it for the fight. This is so awesome. Okay, and as this partnership begins, what is your vision for how Be Not Afraid and Birthchoice will serve family in the years ahead? And how can our community support this mission? Whoever wants to answer.
Well, what we've started out with, is training of Judith and Lori Carter is our other trainee who's just completed training. We have one more person going through training in the current round of training.
Right.
So we'll have, at that point, hopefully we'll have 3 people that will be serving as parent care coordinators. So PCCs, we call them. And when we started out with this, and we were talking initially with Suze and Kevin Klass and I were talking, we thought it would be great to have at least 3 would be really nice. So people could sort of share the load of patients that we would have. We have no idea how many parents or families will necessarily be dealing with. We're located here in Raleigh, and there's no BNA trained org in North Carolina right now. But what will probably happen is we will get referrals from outside of North Carolina as well. And so right now, BNA has 20 trained organizations around the country. So what we would hope eventually to have is at least 1 in each state, maybe more than 1 in each state. But for now, we're all trying to cover lots of space where there are no organizations. So with the 3 PCCs that we will have, the vision is that Judith and Lori and our folks will all work together, that will kind of share patients. It won't be like someone carries their own patient load, because we're all going to learn from each other on how to deal with families going through this. And we're not always all going to be here all the time. So we'll be able to support families when someone is leaving or is gone for a while. And, we'll go from there. So, yeah.
So if there's somebody that's listening right now that either wants to support the mission of this merger with Be Not Afraid and Birthchoice, or if they have some questions, they want to connect, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so the best thing to do right now is we're putting a page together that will go up. Suze and Kevin are working on that.
Okay.
That will go up on the Birthchoice site.
Okay.
So it'll be a contact page.
Okay. That's a great idea.
will be available. It's not available yet.
Not yet,
but
yeah.
but it will be.
Okay.
If anyone is at a point where they need assistance right now, they can do a couple of things. One is go directly to the Be Not Afraid website and just ask for the ability to reach out to Judith or Lori or myself.
Okay.
And we could start working with them.
Eh.
And the other thing is to get in touch with you or here, because you know how to reach me.
Yes.
What we have told folks, especially people who do like sidewalk counseling, who we had a representative from one of the big Protestant sidewalk counseling groups at our meeting at Birthchoice a few weeks ago, is here's a number that they could call. And I had given them my phone number. I said, we'll have a number up on the Birthchoice site soon. If you're on the sidewalk encountering somebody with a prenatal diagnosis, just call us, because they need to talk to somebody. Giving them a flyer, we can do that, but it's really best those folks get to talk to someone right at that point. So I think there's a lot of growth that we're going to anticipate here, Ellen, that maybe isn't totally clear yet, but there's huge opportunity for sure.
Well, just face those issues as their challenges.
You go where the Holy Spirit drags you.
Come and we can do it. Yeah. So if you
What
want
else we have to do, right?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. And if you have a question for Dr. McCaffrey and you want to reach out to him, my email address is faithworks@divinemercyradio.org, and I'd be happy to direct you until they get something up on their website. And I want to share briefly, too, several years ago, my daughter was in university, and I happened to be having a discussion with someone that was working with Birthchoice. I was talking about it this morning, and I cannot remember who it was, but they had developed some business cards with just Birthchoice and the phone number on there, and had maybe a little comment down below of what they were doing. And my daughter said, "Oh, I'll take some." The very next week, when she was in class, there was a young lady that had just discovered that she was pregnant, and my daughter just pulled the card out.
Got her card.
And handed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great way of, sidewalk. Just hand this out if you happen to encounter anybody. It's so easy. There's no, judgment, whatever. Just here, take this and do what you would, and say a prayer as you're handing it. All right. So, and Suze, if listeners would like to learn more about Birthchoice or seek assistance, volunteer, donate, whatever, where can they go to for more information about that?
To our website also, birthchoicewake.org.
Birthchoicewake.org.
Okay. And we have the email there, our phone number. They can call us. They can email us. Please, if you are listening, just tell someone about Birthchoice and Be Not Afraid also, that probably they can volunteer, donate, like you said,
Yes.
or be involved with this program.
So excited. Dr. McCaffrey, you have something you want to add?
Just to add that Be Not Afraid is just so grateful for the partnership with Birthchoice. And I would encourage listeners to do everything possible to support Birthchoice in its large mission. I would make a special plea, though, for Be Not Afraid. Be Not Afraid now, as a training organization, is not directly serving families. And in the past, families have been our greatest donors, and we don't have quite that contact anymore. So if those out there are interested and find the Be Not Afraid mission of trying to train a national network of organizations that are able to supply support to parents in the way that they need it for prenatal diagnosis, please go to Be Not Afraid. It's at www.benotafraid.net. The other thing I would suggest is not only do we train folks like Judith and Lori, who are going to be completing their training with our parent care coordinator training, there are other trainings available there that are probably more suitable for folks who are sidewalk counselors. They are shorter trainings. The PCC training is a much longer, intense training, which generally takes about 2.5 to 3 months. and it's a commitment. The shorter training is training for caring and interacting and interfacing with parents who are abortion vulnerable. Okay. And that is a much shorter training. It's about 4 hours, and it can be completed online. And then lastly, I would ask if there are other folks out there who feel called to this type of ministry, and they would like to help and support and serve folks that are dealing with these challenging prenatal diagnoses. Please go to the Be Not Afraid website and consider signing up for PCC training, Parent Care Coordinator training. And we would be in contact with you. And so we would look forward to lots of new folks desiring to join us in this adventure as we go ahead and support these families as best we can.
All right, Dr. McCaffrey, Suze, Judith, thank you for sharing your experiences and insights with us today. As we've heard, this new partnership between Be Not Afraid and Birthchoice is rooted in a profound commitment to accompany families with compassion, practical support, and hope and love during some of life's most challenging moments. Every child is a gift, and every family deserves to know they are not alone. Through ministries, amazing ministries like these, parents can find the support, encouragement, and resources they need to navigate difficult diagnoses while honoring the dignity and beauty of every human life. If you missed any part of this episode or would like to listen again, you can find this and other inspiring conversations at Divine Mercy Radio. Just click on local shows on our website, divinemercyradio.org. And don't forget, you can take FaithWorks with you wherever you go. Just download the free Divine Mercy Radio app from your app store. Simply search Divine Mercy Radio NC and listen anytime, anywhere. As we continue our mission of sharing stories of faith in action, may we all be inspired to accompany those who are suffering with compassion, courage, and Christ-like love. Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of the unborn, pray for us. Saint Gianna Barretta Mala, pray for us. Saint Teresa of Calcutta, pray for us. God bless.